We're breaking down more early round defensive end options for the Buffalo Bills in the 2025 NFL Draft today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, folks, welcome in. One more podcast dedicated to defensive end options for the Buffalo Bills as we continue our work in creating the Bills 2025 NFL Draft Board. So far, we've done 2 episodes on corners, 2 episodes on defensive tackles, 2 on defensive ends. This will be the 3rd one. And the whole idea here is to build a Bill-specific build board. And so at the end of today's conversation, I'm going to talk about 7 players. And after I'm done with that, I'll give you how I stack these defensive ends for the Buffalo Bills. And I'll rank them 1 through 15, actually. We've done 20, but 15 that I think are actually good fits for the Bills. I'll tell you where I value them, and we'll start stacking this thing together. I'll mix it with the corners and the defensive tackles, and we'll have a really good-looking vertical and horizontal draft board to consider for the Buffalo Bills by the end of April. Next up will be wide receivers, but tomorrow will be herd mentality. I've got a loaded episode of some great questions to dive into for tomorrow. So if you aren't loving the draft conversations, and I get it, it's not for everybody, we'll have something for you tomorrow where we get into some herd mentality discussion, which covers a lot of the hot topics around the team right now. All right, on today's episode, we're covering Shemar Stewart out of Texas A&M, Mykel Williams from Georgia, JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State, Jordan Burch from Oregon, Ashton Gillotte out of Louisville, Abdul Carter out of Penn State, and Jalen Walker out of Georgia. We're going to get to those big heavy hitters. Carter and Walker, probably top 10 picks. But I'll share my thoughts on them to close things out. And then, of course, we'll give you the Bills rankings that I have for the defensive end position. All right, let's start with Shemar Stewart out of Texas A&M. 6'5", 267 pounds, 34 and an 1/8 arms, 9 5/8 on the hand size. RAS score, perfect 10. He's a perfect 10. Pretty dynamic athlete, and he's got a ton of size. For his career at Texas A&M, 1,255 snaps, 12 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. I know that's not very good production. We'll talk about it. And his pass rush win rate in 2024 was 12.4%. He's 21 years old. He's going to turn 22 in November. He was a 5-star recruit, top 10 overall player in 2022 coming out of high school. So why should the Bills consider drafting Shemar Stewart out of Texas A&M? Well, he's got all the unteachable stuff. Very rare blend of size, length, and athleticism. You can teach a lot of things, but I can't teach you to be 6'5", 275 pounds, north of 34-inch arms, and have a perfect RAS score. This dude is a freak athlete. And I think it shows up on tape in a lot of ways. First of all, he's a dominant run defender. Like right now, he can come in and play run defense in the NFL. Length and power at the point of attack for days. And he's just scratching the surface as a pass rusher. He's got a very explosive first step. All the power elements are present. And look, the most translatable skill and the way you need to win in college to win in the NFL is you have to have power elements. And he's got them. And he's got length. And he's got a very, very surprising amount of bend and flexibility for a guy that is slapped together like he is. I mean, this guy can really turn tight corners, carry speed, hinge, pivot. He's got all the movement skills you can ever dream of. And he's extremely versatile. So talk about a guy that can play on the edge with his hand in the dirt, a 2-point stance, reduce inside. You could play him up and down the line of scrimmage. I think in some ways, maybe not nearly the football IQ, but from an athleticism, size, that type of thing, he's a more explosive Greg Rousseau. I think Greg's unbelievable with his football IQ, but I bet you Greg Rousseau would like to have a little bit of the juice that Shemar Stewart has. So what concerns are there about forecasting Shemar Stewart to the Bills? Well, the production profile is certainly missing. And I'll be honest with you, I watched the tape and then I went back and I looked at the production. And after watching the tape, I just assumed that he probably had 20 tackles for loss and 15 sacks in 2024. I was pretty stunned to see just how lean the production has been. But I think it speaks to this Texas A&M defensive philosophy. We've talked about this for a lot of players that are defensive linemen on Texas A&M this year. They just don't ask these guys to attack. And I'll tell you what, if you're a high school recruit and you're looking for someone to go play college football and you're a defensive lineman, please don't go to Texas A&M. They're not going to get the most out of you. They're just not going to. I honestly, I hate the way that these defensive linemen play. Because Scorton and Turner and Stewart, these guys are all really dynamic dudes. And they bulked them up, got them really big, and then they didn't ask them to play up the field. It's a little bit like the vintage Belichick defensive linemen where, they're good players. Richard Seymour, great player, right? Ty Warren, great player. Vince Wilfork, great player. But you're not thinking that they're great because their statistical output. And I feel like that's exactly what's going on at Texas A&M. So, yeah, you'd love for him to have more production, but I think there's some context here that makes me feel pretty good about it. I do think that Shemar needs to develop his rush plan a little bit more, get to the right counters, develop better timing for how he deploys his moves. And then there's this whole weight dynamic where Texas A&M listed him at 290, and then he shows up at the combine at 267. All right, so, there's always that gray area of, well, you played at 290 and you know what that feels like, and there's an adjustment. I mean, that's a significant amount of weight to drop. All of a sudden you're a little bit lighter, but you're probably a little bit quicker. How do you play at that weight? So I think that's something that has to get figured out. But the gifts here are really rare. If he's available at pick 30, I think that of the primary needs, corner and defensive tackle are more pressing, and the talent cliffs come sooner at defensive tackle and corner than that at edge. But if this guy's there at 30, yeah, I think you push all that aside and turn in the card. So I'd love for the Bills to get Stewart at 30, although I don't think he falls to that range. Let's get to Mykel Williams out of Georgia. 6'5", 260 pounds, 34 3/8 on the arm length, 10 1/4 hands. Don't have the relative athleticism score for him. Hasn't tested, so I don't know what it is. Production-wise, 1,190 snaps at Georgia, 23 tackles for loss, 14 sacks, an 11.1% pass rush win rate in 2024. He's young, he's 20. He's going to turn 21 in June. Was a 5-star recruit. In fact, a top 5 player coming out of high school in 2022 as part of that recruiting class. So why should the Bills consider drafting Mykel Williams out of Georgia? Well, I think he's a very clean projection. Wins with length and power, tremendous run defender. Typically, those Georgia front 7 players are very good at defending the run. Mykel Williams is no different. Type of guy that you feel comfortable playing over offensive tackles, setting the edge, squeezing gaps, taking on pullers. He can do it. And I think as a pass rusher, he does well to shave and reduce rush angles. He's not a run around you guy, but I think he has the type of power to play through the edges of blocks and get home. Pretty smooth and fluid athlete. I think he's got a pretty good first step as well. And he's got that ability to convert speed to power. Really does a nice job as a compression style rusher off the edge with that bull rush. Maybe got to develop some counters off the bull rush, but he certainly got that speed to power foundation. And I think he does well to maximize his length. You're talking about over 34-inch arms, plays with extension, has a wide tackle radius, and he does a very good job of getting his hands into throwing lanes as well. So what concerns are there about forecasting Mykel Williams to the Bills? Well, I think he's got to develop more hand usage, more counters, and different ways to soften angles to maximize his ability to be productive as a pass rusher. He can also play a little tall. He's 6'5", and I think he's going to have to kind of battle to make sure he's always leveraged and not be upright as a rusher. Play with some better leverage, lower pads. I think that's a big part of what's necessary for him to unlock everything at the next level, because he is more of a power style player. And when you don't play with good pad level, you're robbing yourself of power, and you're offering more surface area for blockers to get their hands on you. So we've got some development here, but certainly a high ceiling with Mykel Williams. And both of these guys that I talked about, and I think a lot of the players I'm going to talk about today are very clean projections to the Bills defense. So that's Stewart and Williams. Coming up on the other side of it, some of my favorite day two options to get into. So folks, be sure to stick with me. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing a big game in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Gametime comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbeatable prices. Gametime Picks is the easiest way to find and buy tickets to live events. The curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, and theater events. You get peace of mind, folks, with seat views before you buy, no surprise fees, and the lowest price guarantee. You can book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, folks, got some more football players to talk about. Let's do it. Next up is JT Tuimoloau. You didn't think I was going to get the pronunciation, right? Well, I did. Researched it, figured it out, made sure I got it right for you. Tuimoloau out of Ohio State. 6'4", 265 pounds, 33 3/4 on the arm length, 10.5-inch hands. His RAS score, very good, 9.33. Production-wise, 2,133 snaps at Ohio State, 45 tackles for loss, 23.5 sacks, and a ton of production in 2024. 22 tackles for loss and 12.5 sacks in 2024 as a pretty key piece of Ohio State's national championship team in 2024. He's 21 years old. He's going to turn 22 in May. He played football and basketball in high school and actually had a basketball scholarship from Oregon. And, of course, he goes to Ohio State to play football. And some of the recruiting services actually had him as the #1 high school recruit in 2020. And so why should the Bills consider drafting JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State? Again, another very clean projection. Like, you watch him play, you say, yeah, that's the stuff the Bills like their defensive ends to do. That's the body type that they're looking for. So that's helpful. He's got length and strength and hand usage. That's a really good foundation. Maximizes that length, good functional strength at the point of attack, and he's got good hand usage, knows how to beat blocks. He's got good timing, good placement with his hands, plenty of counters. I think he's a very good run defender, has that ability to squeeze gaps, set firm edges, that ability to lock, peek, shed, play with extension, and it's a good processor. Has a good feel for run schemes, where to be, how to leverage his gap, how to take on a puller. Good, fundamentally sound run defender, and he's got terrific contact balance. So not a guy that's easily moved or uprooted, plays through edges with good, core strength throughout. I really like the overall package here in terms of that power at the point of attack and how that shows up in a variety of ways. What concerns are there about forecasting JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State to the Bills? Well, I wish there was more creativity as a pass rusher. He's a power rusher, and that's his go-to, but he's also a heck of an athlete. And I'd like to see him diversify his rush plan a little bit more, because I think there's more ways that he can win as a pass rusher. I wouldn't call him stiff, but he's not super bendy. He has that ability to redirect and corner, but it's modest. It's not super high-level stuff. So, that's probably why he plays more of a power style. But I think he's got enough quickness and athleticism to incorporate some speed rush to what he brings to the table. So clean projection would be a solid second-round pick, in my opinion. Let's talk about Ashton Gillotte out of Louisville. 6'3", 264, 31 7/8 on the arm length, 8.5-inch hands. RAS score of a 9.75, so terrific athlete here. Production-wise, 2,059 snaps at Louisville, 41 tackles for loss, 26.5 sacks. Had a pass rush win rate in 2024 of 20.9. I don't have his age, but he had 4 years at Louisville, so I'd guess he's around 22 years old. Some other notes on him: was a competitive weightlifter and CrossFitter in high school. He also threw shot put for one season on the track team. So why should the Bills consider drafting Ashton Gillotte? Boy, he's fun to watch. Very creative pass rusher. That's where I'd start. He's got a lot of moves, very diverse rush plan, good vision in terms of how he reads the set of blockers and then responds. He gets to his counters. His hands stay busy. He's a very technical player as a pass rusher with a lot of different ways that he can win. I like his ankle flexion. That allows him to corner. And, not that he's like super bendy in the hips, but that ability to have that ankle flexion to be able to put his foot in the ground and turn. He's got that. He's also a guy that can win with speed or power. And so, I mean a diverse rush plan. He's got a lot of different ways that he can win. I think he's very firm and stout at the point of attack. He's got a dense build. And I think he's got a lot of core strength. It's evident throughout his frame. I think that CrossFit background, which really focuses on your posterior chain, your core strength, it shows up in a big way on film. He's got an elite motor, plays with his hair on fire. You'll love watching him play. He's got that temperament. If you like aggressive, urgent football players, which you should, he is that. And I think he's a good overall processor, understands the nuances of playing the defensive end position, contain rushing, chipping tight ends and not allowing free releases, taking on pullers. I mean, there's just a lot to like here in Ashton Gillotte out of Louisville. So what are the concerns? Well, he's got short arms, right? Sub 32-inch arms, not what we want on the edge at all. We wish he had another 2 inches on the arm length. And because of that, he has to be the type of player he is. He has to play with a diverse rush plan and show blockers a lot of different looks and win with speed and win with power because, he's got to work overtime to disengage if things get close to the vest, right? He can't play with a lot of extension. So that limits him a little bit. And then I do think he's got some hip tightness. Ankle flexion, good. Hip tightness is kind of a missing component of the overall package here. But it's kind of one of those players you watch and say, man, I'd love to have him. So Ashton Gillotte out of Louisville, probably late second, third round type guy. You'd be happy if this guy was on your football team. He's a ton of fun to watch. Let's talk Jordan Burch out of Oregon. 6'4", 279 pounds, 33-inch arms, 9.5-inch hands. We don't have the RAS score, but we know he ran a 4.67 40 at the NFL Scouting Combine. That's a heck of a time for a 280-pound defensive end. Production-wise, 2,152 snaps, 33 tackles for loss, 16 sacks. A lot of that coming in 2024. Had 11 tackles for loss and 8.5 sacks in 2024. Pass rush win rate in 2024 of 15.7%. He's 23, will turn 24 in October. Spent 3 seasons at South Carolina, then 2 at Oregon. Was another one of those 5-star recruits, very highly ranked coming out of high school. So why should the Bills consider drafting Jordan Burch? Well, power and explosiveness. I mean, he's got that package. That's good. You like that ability to really move and play strength. Those are a good foundation for him. I think he's a pretty technical player with his hands, variety of different moves to beat blocks. He maximizes his length, firm hands as well. I think he's got good length. Obviously, he uses it to his advantage, doesn't allow, blockers to get into his frame with consistency. And there's a lot of versatility with him in terms of alignment. You can play him on the edge. You can play him inside. I think of that Dwayne Smoot role that the Bills had last year. I think Jordan Burch would be a very clean projection to it. And I think actually, if I'm remembering the tape that I studied, he actually had a big fake punt conversion where they snapped it to him and he had a big run. You could see he's got a heck of a athletic profile there. So what concerns are there about forecasting Jordan Burch to the Bills? Well, I think he's got a good foundation of traits. The application of the traits is just okay. He's plenty powerful to play the run, but I don't think he's a very good processor. So his run defense is just okay. If he's got to take on a straight ahead block, cool. He can do it. Play with extension, leverage your hips, anchor, he can do it. But if he's got to deal with angle blocks or doubles or pullers, he just doesn't have the same level of comfort. So I want to see some of that become second nature to really maximize the physical upside that he has. Play with better pad level. As a pass rusher, you got all the stuff, man. You got all the length, you got size, you got burst. Get to your rush plan, right? What is your rush plan? Get to your counters quicker, set up things a little bit more consistently. And I think that would unlock a lot more based on the physical upside and the physical profile that he presents. So probably better athlete than football player, but you love that room for upward growth. If you were able to get him in your ecosystem, you should have some confidence that you can unlock a lot more from him than what we saw at Oregon. So probably more of a third-round guy for me, but if the Bills are looking for that inside-outside guy like they had in Dwayne Smoot, Jordan Burch has a good foundation of traits to do that. All right, coming up next, I got to tell you about Abdul Carter. Got to tell you about Jalen Walker, even though those are top 10 picks. And then I'll give you my board, my edge rusher rankings specifically for the Bills for the 2025 NFL Draft. So, folks, be sure to stick with me. All right, let's talk about Abdul Carter out of Penn State. 6'3", 250 pounds. We don't have an RAS score out of him. He had like a shoulder deal or something at the combine, and then he didn't test at his pro day. If you watch Abdul Carter play, you don't have an ounce of concern about the athleticism. In fact, Bruce Feldman's Freaks List, he shared some verified numbers on Abdul Carter. 4.48 40-yard dash, 33.5-inch vertical, hit 22.4 miles per hour on the gun, 350-pound power clean, 600-pound squat, 375 on the bench. There's nothing physically lacking about Abdul Carter. At Penn State, 1,836 snaps, 41 tackles for loss, 23 sacks, but 24 tackles for loss and 12 sacks came in 2024. Pass rush win rate in 2024 of 22.6%. 21 years old. He won't turn 22 until January of 2026. One thing about Abdul Carter is that his first 2 years, he played off-ball backer, and then he switched to the defensive end edge rusher role this past season, and boy, did he showcase a high level of skill. Abdul Carter, for me, flip a coin. I think he's either the best or the second best prospect in this class. I think there are three legit blue-chip talents. Travis Hunter, Colorado; Abdul Carter, Penn State; Ashton Gillotte, Boise State, the running back. I think those are the dudes. Like throwaway positional value, anything like that. Those are the three best football players in this draft. And Carter's special, a really special guy. He's got elite, and I mean elite, get off. The first step is unbelievable. Fluid, efficient. There's no wasted movement. This guy has unbelievable burst into his rush. I mean, these college tackles were falling all over themselves trying to just get their hands on this guy. They had a hard time setting. Like, you got a vertical set or 45-degree set against Abdul Carter. These guys didn't have a prayer. Unbelievable get off. He's got burst. He's got twitch. He's got suddenness. He's remarkably explosive. And the stress that he puts on the foot speed of an offensive tackle is exceptional. And he complements that with terrific bend. He's loose. He can spring. He can bend at the hips. He can, he's got ankle flexion, all the stuff you're looking for in terms of speed and quickness and flexibility. He's got really good body control and contact balance. He doesn't offer much surface area. It's tough to get your hands on this guy. And I think he does pretty well for a 250-pound edge rusher to play through contact. And, he's a player that has a lot of versatility. You can certainly have him rush off the edge, and that's what he primarily should do. But if you want to line him up on the second level and have him blitz from depth, if you want him to attack the B gaps, go right ahead. This guy is a matchup nightmare up and down the line of scrimmage. And I know it's the low-hanging fruit because he went to Penn State and he wears number 11, but there's a lot of similarity in Micah Parsons and how he wins and what you get out of Abdul Carter. It's just, look, I know it's low-hanging fruit, but you don't have to make it more difficult than it has to be. It's a very clean, stylistic comparison, in my opinion. And guys just can't get their hands on this dude. And of course, is that somewhat mitigated at the next level? Sure. But there's still an athletic profile here, and the application of it to how he wins as a pass rusher, that's pretty freaking special. What concerns are there about forecasting Abdul Carter to the Bills? Well, I mean, are they going to give up everything in the whole world to get to the top 2 or something like that, top 3 picks to get this guy? They shouldn't. But he's also a very different style of run defender. He's more of a slasher. I don't want you to be confused that Abdul Carter can't defend the run. He can, but not in a traditional even front way. He's not going to play over offensive tackles and squeeze gaps and set firm edges. You want him to slash. If you wanted to play over tight ends, if you wanted to play from wider alignments, okay, yeah, you can do that. But you have to have a willingness to adapt to his style so he can work for your defense as a 3-down player. That's not really something that exists with the Bills. But this guy's a dude. Really exciting prospect that some team in the top 5 is going to be really, really happy that they get and can be kind of an identity piece for their defense for a long time. I think he's going to be a big-time playmaker. Let's talk about Jalen Walker. Not quite the rave review for him. I really like Jalen Walker, but not quite Abdul Carter. Jalen Walker out of Georgia, 6'1", 243. He's a little leaner than you thought. I thought he'd be north of 250. Came in at 243 with 32-inch arms and 10.25-inch hands. Don't have any athletic testing on him, although I really wouldn't have any concerns about the athletic profile. He's a good athlete. Production-wise, 984 snaps at Georgia, 19 tackles for loss, 12.5 sacks. Keep in mind, he is not a full-time pass rusher. He plays a lot of off-ball linebacker, kind of a platoon where he's playing Mike linebacker and sometimes playing edge rusher. Pass rush win rate of 17.2% in 2024. 21 years old. He's going to turn 22 next February. His father is head coach at Catawba College. That's actually somewhat near me here in North Carolina. Was been their head coach for over 10 years. Prior to that, I think he was the defensive coordinator at Coastal Carolina. And in high school, Jalen Walker played football, basketball, and competed in track. So why should the Bills consider drafting Jalen Walker? Well, versatility. I think this guy is a high-level run defender as a stack linebacker. Really outstanding ability to play downhill, play off contact, like literally destroy blocks and make tackles and fill gaps. He's a really excellent downhill run defender as a stack linebacker. And then he also has really exciting rush ability. Long and late downs, whether that's as a blitzer and using that ability to convert speed to power to win as a blitzer, or off the edge with speed. And he's got some pass rush moves as well. Think of like a Frankie Louvu type player, a Jamie Collins type player, maybe a little Kyle Van Noy. I think that's what you're getting out of Jalen Walker. He's got really good burst, good contact balance, good flexibility, good hand power. Love the speed to power conversion as a bull rusher and a blitzer. And even though he hasn't done it a ton, there is natural edge rush talent that you get excited about developing more of. What concerns are there about forecasting Jalen Walker to the Bills? He's just going to be a better fit for other teams. I don't think he can or should live full-time on the edge or off the ball. And off the ball, you don't want this guy playing in coverage. I think he's a very poor coverage player. But as a run defender, he's great. And then, of course, you can rush him in a variety of ways, but I don't want him being a traditional hand-in-the-dirt defensive end either. So he's a hybrid player, and I just don't know that the Bills, especially this type of player that's versatile with what he can do in the front. The Bills have never really had that guy. And I think for a defense like Carolina, I think he's a perfect fit for Carolina. I think he's a perfect fit for the Mike McDonald defenses like Seattle, Baltimore, Miami, Tennessee, those types of teams. I think he's perfect for. I just don't see him as a good fit for the Buffalo Bills. Although if you get him, you better be able to figure it out because he's a very good football player that can help any defense. All right, so let me give you my edge rusher rankings. We did 3 podcasts. We covered 20 players. 15 of those I have ranked as clean fits for the Buffalo Bills. And when I say clean fits, of course, Abdul Carter's on here. I'm sorry, if you can't figure it out with Abdul Carter, then just blow it up. It's and you don't have a clue what you're doing. So he's on here, but I try to get the guys that are either supremely gifted or are the right type of fits for the Bills defense. So this is how I stack it up. Let me give you the players 1 through 15, and then I'll give you my round grade with them. So true first round grades. This is legit first round talent. Abdul Carter, Penn State. My number 2 is Shemar Stewart out of Texas A&M. Those are clean first round grades for me. The next 3 players, I have a late first, early second round grade, which is the range that the Bills are picking. Donovan Izaraku out of Boston College, number 3 for me. Mykel Williams out of Georgia is number 4. And Nick Scorton, the edge rusher from Texas A&M, is number 5. The next couple players, the next 2 players actually, are second round grades. So ideally second round picks in this draft class, the Bills are picking 30. So there's a chance you might pick a player that you have a second-round grade on at pick 30 because you're probably not going to have 30 first-round grades. It just depends on what happens before you. So these are both second-round grades. Number 6 for me is Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. Number 7 is JT Tuimoloau out of Ohio State. Now, these next several players are third-round grades. 1, 2, 3. We have 6 true third-round grades. Number 8 is Ashton Gillotte out of Louisville. Number 9 is Olu Oladejo out of UCLA. Number 10 is Baron Sorrell out of Texas. Number 11 is Braden Swinson out of LSU. Number 12 is Jordan Burch from Oregon. Number 13 is Jared Ivey from Ole Miss. I have a late 3, early 4th round grade on Jack Sawyer from Ohio State. That's number 14. And then the number 15 player is Kyle Kennard out of South Carolina. I have a 4th round grade on him. So that's how I stack them 1 through 15. And then the fun part is now I'll mesh them with the corners. I'll mesh them with the defensive tackles, and we'll have a really good looking idea of the vertical presentation of the board as well as the horizontal presentation of the board when we're all done with this whole thing. And next up will be wide receivers. I know a lot of people are interested in some potential receiver help for the Bills. And so we'll talk about them, probably 2 or 3 episodes on them next week. Tomorrow will be herd mentality. And then look, maybe I didn't cover every defensive end. I think I've covered a lot of them, obviously. But, if there's a player that the Bills have in for a 30 visit, or there's a player that gets some buzz, or there's some rumors the Bills might be interested, we'll definitely go back and break them down as well. So we'll be ready for draft day by the end of April. So hope you're enjoying this. Hope that you come back. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills! And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.